Welcome back, guys, to the Lazy Sunday edition of the Cousin Connection Pot. Oh, my bad. My bad. Okay.
This is our 10th take.
Okay. Welcome back, guys, to the Lazy Sunday edition of the Cousin
Connection Podcast.
And the reason I say it's a Lazy Sunday edition is because we tired, okay? It's
the
Sunday.
Itis has kicked in.
Yeah, I had a wedding that we went to last night, or I went to a wedding last night, sorry. I
didn't do anything, but I'm still tired.
Exactly. We were both hungry. We literally just got some food right before, so we have a little bit of the itis going through us as well. Oh, my voice almost cracked there too. I was screaming last night, man.
Why? You were having a
no, because I'm one of those guys who just sits on the side and tries to have like full-on conversations
while
with people
the music is like blasting.
While the music is blasting,
yeah.
And like it was so loud that it was like clipping a little bit, at least next to us. So
and you were sitting next to this.
Yeah, so
you couldn't move. You couldn't go like.
I don't know. I was too lazy to move, man. I didn't want anyone to see me because then they're trying to pull you in. They like put me in a couple. I was like, nah, man. I'm too. My bones are too rickety now. I can't be doing this anymore.
You can't do the Harari Dad 2-step.
Nah, bro. Like even that. My knees were already done. I had leg day the same day. It wasn't a good recipe, okay?
Yeah, but like honestly, dancing at a Harari wedding is basically your cardio for the day.
Yeah, well, it depends on like if you're doing 2-step. I feel like that doesn't even count.
No.
It counts towards my steps for sure, but that's
like okay. If you all the Harari people listening to this,
mm-hmm.
all the ones in North America, because I don't know if anyone else has experienced this. But like when you have like Adham at the wedding,
yeah,
and he really caters to the younger audience.
Yeah,
so he himself gets into the crowd and sings. Don't you remember my brother's wedding?
Yeah, but I feel like now with COVID and everything, because the numbers are smaller as well.
Yeah. Oh, how was that, by the way? Like your first.
With COVID? First, like it felt like normal. I don't know if this is gonna expose it too much, but there was like the mask rule and everything. Like if you're sitting down at your table, you don't have to wear it. But if you're moving around, put it on. But then, of course, like it was up to your discretion of whether or not you're going to follow that.
Right.
And like, of course, people made that choice not to. And I didn't really care. Like even for myself, I kind of forgot a couple times. But you can see like there were people who were a little bit more hesitant to kind of like jump into the crowd or whatever. So it wasn't like that big pile up that you're usually used to where like everybody's like, yeah, it was sort of nice because it was a little bit more loose, so you're not like kind of being pushed up on anyone.
A more spaced out dance floor.
Yeah, and also because it was like the numbers were limited, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have like 500 people trying to stand on one like 4-foot square circle.
Square circle.
I mean, sorry, 4-foot square dance floor or whatever, right? So that was nice not having to be like pressed up against 1,000 people.
That's how I
numbers
felt
just go up every time.
I went to my friend's wedding last September.
Yeah.
And there was like maybe 30 people on the dance floor at most.
Really?
Yeah, so we were like spaced out.
Yeah.
I mean, this was also like in 2020, so COVID was still pretty rampant.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is now too.
Actually, no, like there was a point where it like died down because we didn't have the variants back then either, right? So it wasn't as contagious
exactly
as it is now.
Exactly, yeah. So it was definitely when it wasn't like when things were open.
Yeah.
And it was so weird.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I can see through the dance floor. Like I can literally see the other people on the side of the hall.
Yeah, but I think that's also because back then people were even more hesitant because no one had a vaccine at that point, right?
Yeah.
Now we're talking about people who are fully vaccinated, and like some of them already got it, so they feel like me personally. I feel like I'm even more protected because I got it and I have 2 of the.
You feel a little invincible.
Yeah, I do have that like invincibility complex right now with the whole vaccine thing. Like I'm probably taking more risks than I should, and
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about you being in my house now. I'm just kidding.
No, I'm good. I washed my hands when I came in. You saw that.
So did I.
Exactly. We're still staying clean here, guys. So before we even started the podcast, we were having an interesting conversation about like, tipping in a restaurant, and we have like an interesting story that goes along. Do you want to tell it or should I tell it?
I don't trust my memory, so I'm gonna go.
Okay,
I'll fill in the gaps if I remember.
So. Us and like a few people.
There was a big group of us.
Yeah, it was a big group of us. We went to like an all-you-can-eat sushi spot. I think it's like, should I say the name of the place?
Yeah, it's fine.
Should I? I'm gonna put him out on blast like that. But we went to an all-you-can-eat sushi spot, and we were all like, getting our food. But then we noticed that the service was like trash. Like they weren't paying attention to us. Everything was taking longer than it should have. We would have everything written out for what we wanted, and we'd have to wait like 10, 15 minutes for it to even come.
More
or for them,
that.
someone to come and pick it up so we can wait to get the order. And just in general, it wasn't good service, right? And, you know, at the end, we were like, you know, that's when you get the bill and everything, and you start to, you have to make that choice of like, should I give tip or not?
Yeah.
And like, I think everybody had an individual bill.
We did.
Yeah, we all had individual bills, but a majority of us chose to not
tip.
give any tip. I gave a little bit of a tip because like, we'll get into why, but essentially because the majority of us didn't give the tip, the servers literally came up to us and called us out. And there, before we left, we were like all walking out the door, and they came up to a few of us, and we're like, "Where's the tip, guys? Like, you guys should have tipped. Why didn't you tip?" Like, literally pointing at the bill, like in their hand. They're like, "Why didn't you tip over here? It doesn't show you guys tip." And like, it was an awkward interaction. They like, everybody's like, "What?" Some of us just continued walking out and turn around and is like, I don't know did someone even explain? I think we said like the service wasn't good.
I think I remember that. I'm pretty sure I said something because everyone else was walking. I'm like, that's kind of rude. Like, they're asking us a question.
Yeah.
So we're like, we just weren't satisfied with your service.
Exactly. And that brought up the question because for me, I just feel like no matter what, I in any situation, I still give, like if it's a restaurant situation, I still give tip because at the end of the day, like, you don't know what's going on with those people or what's going on with the individual at that time. Like, maybe they're going through a rough time and it's showing through their work. And I know you're making a face right now, and I know like you can say, but like
I have a comeback. That's why I'm just letting you finish.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. I'll go off with mine is then.
Okay.
So yeah, so no matter what, in any situation, I usually give if it's a service situation, it's always, maybe we can get into that too. It's always weird whenever you see that we're given the machine at like a fast food, not a fast food place, but like one of those like non-chain stores, but it has a tip.
Yeah,
for it,
and you're like taking something to go, right?
Yeah,
I never tip for those.
For those, I'm confused on like whether I should tip or not. And like before, I used to not tip for those ones, but now with COVID and everything, I'm like, you know what? I'll give an extra because like, you know, everybody was hit hard with COVID, so why not? I'll give you a little bit extra money there to help you guys out because I come here regularly anyways, right?
What a good Samaritan you are.
I'm just saying,
model
man,
citizen.
You know, COVID hit everybody, so you know, try and support them. So. Because even though they are back open, like they have to recover from all of the stuff that they lost over time. I don't know what if they were getting any money from the government to
Small
support
businesses were able to get a grant of like $20,000 if they applied for it.
Yeah, but $20,000 is like maybe for someone that doesn't cover all the rent, right?
Yeah.
So it's gonna cost a lot of. It probably costs them more than $20,000 to keep their doors closed, essentially, but just have to pay for the rent. But. Yeah, so my opinion on that is just I always give tip unless like I've never been in a situation unless they were like active blatantly like disrespectful towards me, then I've never had to make that choice. But I feel like I would make that choice not to. But
not only would I not tip, but I would end up on
not
Six
pay.
Buzz, World Star, Shade Room. Is World Star even a thing anymore?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Like I'm not part of that.
Long story short, I would cause a ruckus if you want to call it that.
Okay, so then you can go in with your opinion. So my opinion was like, you know what, I'll pay tip no matter what. Maybe I won't give the whatever they expect. Now remember when it used to be like 15% was like the general tip, but now it went up to like 18%, and now places are asking like 20% for it. That's like 1/5, literally 1/5 of your meal they're asking for you to pay on top of what you already paid. But you know, that's something else. So what's your opinion on tipping?
I personally have never worked in the food industry. I've never been a server, restaurant. I've never done that.
Yeah.
But I have worked retail, essentially customer service. I've done a customer service job before. And they always used to tell us, like, regardless of what you have going on in your personal life, when you're servicing your customers, when you're providing service to them, your personal life doesn't matter. You always have to give the best service. Like, that's literally the golden rule. The customer's always right. I don't like using that. I don't generally believe that the customer is always right. But if your job is literally to be a server, it's funny because sometimes when we go out, like, you can tell when someone is quote unquote working for their tip, or they could just naturally be a nice person.
Yeah.
But I don't always believe in tipping regardless of the service. I think for me, if I have exceptional service, I'll go above and beyond to be like, wow, you were amazing. Here's like extra, whatever. You know what I mean? But to tip them just because I feel sorry for them is a little...
Would you feel like you're rewarding bad behavior or something?
No, but it's like when we were at that restaurant and they asked, why didn't you guys tip us? I wasn't rude. I just said we weren't satisfied with your service. You guys took way too long to come to us. Most of the time you ignored us. And you know what? Like, I'm not trying to make this a race issue, but sometimes it really is. Like, imagine seeing a big...
Well, yeah, I guess that... I feel
people.
like maybe that might have been a big part of it. But I try, like, that's like the last resort for me when it comes to making...
Yeah, no, I know. I don't always make that assumption, but I'm just saying, you know, a lot of times when you are in sushi spots, the workers are, you know, Asian. Yeah. And we've had this conversation before in an earlier episode about how some Asian people view like black people. And the racism issue there. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, what's happening? Oh, I didn't even hear that. I didn't even hear that, honestly. But yeah, like race issues aside, generally speaking, if your service is good, I'll tip you the 15%. If your service is great, then you know I'll tip you as I see fit. Like if I want to feel extra, and I'm like, here's $20. I don't know if I've ever tipped that much, but
do you feel like it's disrespectful to a point? Like, let's say the bill was like $20 and you gave like $1 tip.
But sometimes what if I was poor and all I had was $21 and my thing came up to like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like if I have it, I'll give it. If I don't have it, then it shouldn't be an expectation. I know in our society here it is, but like when I went to like Australia, for example.
Well, over there it's different, right? Because they pay them a living wage.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing that we were explaining there too. Because when I noticed when I was there that I was like, oh my God, no one is like, their service was actually good. Why isn't anyone tipping? Yeah. And they explained like they already get paid really high. Yeah. What's the point? Like,
did you feel like the service took a hit because they didn't have to work for their tip? Or they didn't have to work for any tip at all because they were getting paid a living wage anyways? Or were they like, did you not even notice?
Yeah, no. No. The only time that I felt like, wow, this place is really crappy was when we went to Blue Mountain in Sydney. It's like, it's kind of like if you were to go to, like if you're going to Banff when you're in Alberta, something like that. So we went to, I think it was like a Pizza Nova, some pizza spot. Yeah. And so you know how you normally have to wait to be seated? Yeah. This place you can just walk in and sit down and then the server comes to you. Yeah. So it was pretty empty. There was like maybe one family. So we came in, we sat down, it was 5 of us. And we sat there for like 20 minutes. Not a single person approached us.
You didn't even talk to any? Did you see the workers
yeah, we saw them. Around? We saw them. So another family came maybe like 10 minutes after us. Yeah. They all got menus and they got their meals before we even got greeted.
Really?
So we're like, hello. We're literally sitting right here. Yeah. But nothing. They didn't even look in our direction. So then, remember I told you I'd cause a ruckus? Yeah. Yeah, that's when that came out. That side came out of me. And I was like, let's flip over all the tables. Let's throw the chairs at the walls.
How did it really come out? Like, what did you do?
So what actually happened was...
Because I know how it went in your mind.
I think we might have like tipped the salt shaker or something. And then we got...
You see like some salt thing rolling on the table across.
We were pissed though, because we got up. Yeah. And then we started like... I wouldn't say we were like screaming. Yeah. We weren't the stereotypical like mad black woman. Yeah. But we were definitely raising our voices like, you guys are racist. Because the other families were obviously...
Wait, at any point in the first like 5 minutes when you guys sitting there, did anyone go up to a server and be like, hey, we've been waiting for 5 minutes?
So when we walked in, they were serving the other table that was already there. Yeah. So they acknowledged us and they were like, we'll be right there. And they never came back. Then they served the other table that came after us. So we're like, hello, we didn't even get a menu. And then they kind of just stuck like behind the counter in the kitchen. So I wish we yelled, you know, because I feel like it's actually interesting. I was watching this show where the character on the show is this white woman and she's a teacher who teaches like predominantly black kids, right? So they called her racist because she was basically doing cultural appropriation for stepping. You know, when you do the step dance, she was trying to relate it. You know the stepping, like the.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
She was trying to related to their material.
Oh, related. Okay.
So she did it.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's cultural appropriation.
What? She's trying to relate to the kids.
Yeah, but they still like, they were like, you should have had someone who actually knows how to do it rather than you trying to like do it type of thing. I don't know. Anyways.
But like, that's not something you shouldn't react to that negatively. Like she tried something. She maybe was not educated on exactly how she should have went by it. But the first reaction should not be negative. The first reaction should be like, okay, thank you for at least trying to be considerate and like try to relate to us in some way. But this is how you should have done it. And I feel like we're going to get to the internet in general soon enough, or maybe we can flow into that here. Continue from what you were.
I mean, I part of that is I think we've just been breeded to be a hypersensitive society. But that's why I think they got upset at her and called it cultural appropriation. But what I was going to say, so she then was telling her black roommate like, oh my God, this is what happened at work. Yeah. And so to try to defend herself, she said the famous line, oh, I'm not racist, I don't see color. And they're like, well, that's the problem. You have to see color in order to acknowledge the fact that there is racism in our society. Yeah. And then she read this book. It's called like White Fragility or something like that. But anyway, the point of all this
Who read the book? The teacher or?
The teacher. Oh, okay. To like try to educate herself. Because she was like, oh crap. Like, and the interesting
So she went about it the right way then?
No, but at first when her black roommate said, no, you... like you're she didn't directly say you're racist, but she kind of implied like it was cultural appropriation. So the white teacher got defensive and she started to defend her character. She's like, I'm a good person and I have feelings too. After she read the book, she herself realized, she was like, when white people are accused of being racist, they feel like it's an attack on their character. If you've seen all those like videos about Karens and stuff, when you call someone racist, they get so offended and they like instantly feel like you've just, insulted their whole character. And they always say, I'm a good person. I don't see, like, they're trying any way to like defend themselves. Yeah. But really, like, if you're being accused of racism, maybe see it from that person's, the accuser's side. Exactly. And understand. And instead of jumping to the defense, be like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. What I just did was racist. And
so I guess it works both ways. Like, as I mentioned, is that we shouldn't be quick to judge and condemn the person, and that person shouldn't be quick to get defensive and get angry. So it's kind of a two-sided thing where like the person who's doing it and the people who are reacting to it both have to be smart in how they react to the situation or what happened.
But you know what though, because one of my friends that was with us on this trip is actually from Australia, and she did warn us, like, this area, there are racist people.
And isn't that the same city that happened with the bus station thing where the guy was like,
that was in Sydney. This was like in the mountains area, so it was like even worse.
Oh, okay.
So we were like yelling at them. We're like, you guys are racist. You're this. You're that. And then I think what was the source saying? They just kind of stood there in the kitchen, watched us with blank faces. What are they gonna say? They're not gonna say anything. And then after that, we left the restaurant, and like, sometimes like something happens to you and the shock value like stops you from really processing it. But after we left the restaurant, we got angrier, and we're like, yo, let's go back and like we're going to go like
had adrenaline running through you at this point.
Mess up the restaurant. Let's go do this. Let's go. And then I was like, you know what? Nah,
that would not help the situation at all.
We would have gotten arrested in Australia.
Exactly. But kind of to jump off of that, another topic that I want to talk to, we kind of like in our earlier episodes, or even one of our first or second episode, we kind of touched on the topic of like cancel culture and just the general culture on the internet when it comes to calling out racism or calling out people who have done something that they deem to be immoral on the internet,
socially
unacceptable, and how the internet can be quick to react, and how that culture is changing. Because when we first did it, like, we were still getting used to podcasting, so we weren't really good at like expressing our thoughts. Really, we were kind of getting used to it. But now I feel like we kind of dive deeper into it and kind of break it down a little bit better. Yeah. So like, there are a couple of things that kind of brought this up. Like recently, I know a lot of people may not be into like pop culture and everything, but there's this rapper called DaBaby. DaBaby. And DaBaby had the problems because He in the trouble. No, I guess that doesn't even work. But essentially, so he made some comments while he was on stage at like a festival.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Sorry to cut you off. I actually, like, literally the other day I was reading a post about it, and I didn't think it was homophobic.
Well, that's what I'm getting to, right? So like the comments he made, they were they were very uneducated, the comments he made, because he made comments about like how if you have like he made like the most weird comments, like if you have HIV or something like that.
Wait,
put your hands in the air or something like that.
I'm gonna read you just so that like you guys listening have context of what he was saying. Okay, so he said this. He said, if you didn't show up today with HIV, AIDS, or any of them deadly sexually transmitted diseases that'll make you die in 2 or 3 weeks, then put your cell phone lighter up. Fellas, if you ain't sucking D in the parking lot, put your cell phone lighter up. Now, because he said that, the whole HIV AIDS thing, I actually saw this from Demi Lovato, like reposted it on Instagram.
Yeah. Demi Lovato's really weird right now, by the way. No, there's something else. Could continue.
Yeah, it's a topic for another day. I used to be a Demi stan, but you know, well, I'll save my feelings about her. For
they have been going through some things.
They have been going through. Yeah. we really gonna do that?
No, just go ahead.
Anyways, so his comment, that I just read out to you guys, was perceived negatively from the LGBTQ, the rest of the alphabet community.
Yeah. But like the reaction was, I think the reaction to this kind of was a turning point in cancel culture in general, because you started to see the shift essentially. So initially it was like the classic, all the other festivals were canceling him from showing up.
DaBaby?
Yeah, DaBaby. Like,
didn't
he was
this just happen?
You know, it happened like a month and a half ago or something like that. Oh. But essentially, like everyone was canceling. He was getting a lot of hate. But then, this used to not happen before. A lot of other celebrities and artists started coming out and saying, like, I think it was Miley Cyrus mainly who like said, okay, you guys, instead of reacting in this negative way and like trying to condemn this person and take them off the face of the planet, why not talk to this person and educate them on what you deem to be wrong and see how they react to it, and hopefully they learn from it, and then you can make your judgment from there on whether or not you're gonna quote unquote cancel this person, right? And before, in the early days of the cancel culture, if you did even the slightest thing, like if you said the slightest negative thing towards the LGBTQ community or any minority group, you would immediately be cut off. And
don't you remember like all those white singers, like a video would surface online where they were like singing along to a rap song and they said the N-word, and they get canceled. Justin Bieber, that happened to him.
Exactly. And that also shows the whole how this cancel culture is so thin, like it has no real weight to it.
Ariana Grande got canceled for licking donuts.
Yeah.
I mean,
sorry, I guess that really happened.
It is gross. Like, don't be licking donuts and then putting them back on the shelf. But
yeah,
like,
that was kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's like a weird thing to get canceled for.
Exactly. And it shows you how like it's so fickle, and like the internet has such a short attention span. And I feel like honestly it turned to just cancel culture in general just turned to people wanting to feel like they have some type of influence and power over other people that usually are untouchable or they would deem to be untouchable, like celebrities or influencers. Because when you look at it for the reality of the situation, the people who are replying on Twitter and all this stuff, and the people and the big, there's only like maybe like 10 or 20 people in total, but all these large media conglomerates are like pulling from those tweets, quoting them, putting on a page. It makes it look official. Maybe the person will have like a blue tick or something, and then immediately becomes like news. And this also goes into the fact that like these news pages are desperate for stories.
Yeah.
So they will look for the smallest thing to try and make a big headline out of it. Even though they know it could destroy someone's career, if it can give them eyes on their page for 1 or 2 days, they'll do it. Because they have, at this point, like morality is out the window, integrity is out the window in general, and they're just trying to get clicks, essentially. And cancel culture, unfortunately, is like and never-ending flow of revenue for them.
I think that cancel culture really started at like the height of social media.
Yeah.
And
do you remember what the first real case of like canceling was?
It's probably like one of the Disney kids.
No, I think it was maybe R. Kelly.
No,
it
was way before R. Kelly. Was
actually,
recent.
No. The first one was Michael Jackson. I feel like Michael Jackson was like the major one.
But he was before social media. People were making fun of him and like
but like when the internet became a big thing too, then I guess really that was pre-internet. And it didn't really make a big splash.
The Disney
on the
kids,
as well.
I'm pretty sure it had to have been someone from Disney did something that wasn't wholesome.
It was like you mentioned. It was a lot of like white kids saying the N-word basically.
Yeah, don't you that and like okay, I used to be like really like deeply engulfed in pop culture as a teenager. Yeah.
Like now I barely pay attention. I've only heard these stories like I'm talking about because I'm listening to podcasts and stuff. But go ahead.
Yeah, so like as a teenager, like I could educate you on anything. Like if I tell you all the things I know now, we're gonna be like, what the hell? Like,
but your knowledge is like so outdated now.
It's so outdated that like, I'm embarrassed.
You probably couldn't name like the top 5 creators or influencers right now in the media. Like the people you mentioned that you're thinking right now are probably old news now.
Yeah, they are old news. But I'm saying like at that time, that's when cancel culture was pretty rampant, I would say. But I don't disagree with where it started, like idea behind it, because
it has
essentially, if you think about it, these celebrities they are who they are because of their fans. Yeah. So imagine you have millions of fans who now have a public voice because they have Twitter, they have Instagram, whatever. Yep. It was mostly Twitter though that canceled you because that's where it starts, right? People are typing on there. Exactly. So before the celebrities, like, you only really saw them on TV on the news. Now you have direct access to them. Like a lot of them
you can literally send them a message. Yeah, and they may even reply.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that having your fans hold you accountable kind of brings these celebrities a little bit back down to earth and brings or hopefully makes them a little bit more humble or like brings some sort of humility towards them. You know. Yeah. So I don't disagree with that, but I think that as the years went by and social media became a strong powerhouse where everyone and their mama had it. And the thing is that you know how it is. There's always power in numbers. Yeah. So I think when people on social media realized, oh wait, we actually control the power. Like if we really wanted to, we could all stop supporting this person and they wouldn't have a job tomorrow. Yep. Like, which is so true.
They can end at someone's career like that, like in a snap.
Yeah. And so as people, like as our society as a whole became more and more socially aware and more social injustices were being uncovered and then people are educating themselves because knowledge is so easily accessible now. Well, quote unquote knowledge, conspiracy theories, everything else is so easily accessible. You can get canceled for literally anything at this point. So there's like and on top of all that, it's like there's always going to be people who are trying to expose those on top, right? So even if it's true that when you're younger and you're not as educated, you're bound to do something that's like not correct, right? So those things were coming up online. Yeah. Do I personally agree with canceling someone for what they did 10 years ago? Yeah, that's what I wanted to get into. I would only agree with that if they're still that person.
Exactly. And that happened to Kevin Hart. Like, remember they brought up tweets from like 8 years ago.
Those things? Yeah. When they do that,
it's almost like
so many people have been canceled because of old tweets from like 2013.
And that was, I think, the most frustrating thing about cancel culture is that like people change and people grow. The person that you shouldn't expect that person from 5-6 years ago to be the same person today. They've learned since then. And also the times were different back then. Yeah. Like there are certain words and things you can say 10 years ago that you can't say now. Yeah. Yeah. But now because how social media has been around for so long, those things are still up there. Right. So and it's not, you can't really pull up what someone said 10 years ago because it's in a different context. The context, if you just take it out of context, of course it sounds bad.
Yeah.
But within context, it's like, okay, those were the times.
Right.
And people say, oh, but they should have known better. It's like everyone.
Did you know better?
Yeah. You did not know any better either.
Yeah.
Everyone thought like this back then. You know, that's how. If you go back to the 80s and 50s movies, like they're literally men beating wives on like black and white TV shows, and that was seen as normal. But nowadays, that would be like extremely intolerated on any platform anywhere.
Yeah.
So you can't take things out of context like that. The only reason those things aren't taken out of context is because you can clearly see that it's black and white. But the internet looks the same as it did 10 years ago as it did now. Maybe just the pages look a little bit more cleaner.
Yeah.
But a text will look the same 10 years apart.
Right.
So that's why I feel like it was so easily used. It can be so easily weaponized towards these celebrities or anyone in general.
Yeah. And then, like I was saying, because you have power in numbers, one Twitter account can expose a celebrity from a tweet 10 years ago. And then you were saying because these blogs or whatever, the celebrity pages are so thirsty for gossip, for anything, they're just gonna, I'm sure they have people that scout Twitter and Instagram for hashtags, and they look for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One tweet can go viral and then that's it, you're done. So, and then the thing is that cancel culture was so strong at one point where like if you were canceled, that's it, your career is done. But now,
well, no, that it would be done for maybe a few months. But then those people slowly start to come back.
But the thing is that because this is the cycle of being canceled. Something gets exposed, whether it's something from years ago or you just did something recently, it surfaced online and you get canceled for it. Then you have to make a PR statement, right? Like your PR team scrambles. You have to make some sort of statement saying that you're going to do better and educate yourself and whatever. So they make that statement and then everyone's like, oh yeah, like that was a good statement. You know what I mean? And then you kind of go MIA because you're allegedly working on yourself, and then you come back with a new project and you reinvent yourself, whether you're a singer or whatever, you know?
Exactly.
I think people caught on to those fake ass apologies because I remember when we had the podcast about the girl from The Bachelor?
Oh yeah. I remember. Yeah, exactly. That was the one where we were sort of kind of touching onto cancel culture, but we never really expanded onto it.
So I don't know if you've ever read her statement, but I waited for her to make her statement because hers was like, I think 2018, she went to that antebellum party, whatever, the racist party.
Yeah.
When she put out her statement, it was something that she wrote. It wasn't a team. I mean, I like to assume that anyway, but it was so well written. Like it was a long statement too. She posted it on her page and it was very, very well written because she wasn't doing that typical thing of defending her character and saying that she's a good person. She was like, you know what? I messed up. Like I realized that this is really wrong of me to do. And I'm actively going to become an ally rather than, you know, someone who's just a silent person. And obviously by the way, update for whoever doesn't follow along with The Bachelor. She's back with him now.
Really?
Yeah, they're together.
Yeah, it makes sense because that was literally, I think he just did that to gain distance.
It was absolutely a PR
so
stunt.
He wouldn't get her,
he definitely broke up with her for the show. I think maybe he was hurt, maybe not. I don't know. But he ultimately wanted to be with her anyway. So
yeah. But then again, it's like, would you want to be with a guy who just while you're in your toughest moment, he left you and then came back when he thought, oh, everything's, he peeked in, he's like, everything good?
I mean, he probably was with her secretly the whole time.
Oh, okay, yeah. But if that's the case, then yeah.
He let her he let her be crucified by social media.
But still, I don't know. I feel like you should stuck beside him. You know, was that thing? Stuck beside him. Was that TikTok one? Oh, shoot, I forget it. You don't remember that TikTok?
No.
It's like stuck beside. Oh, whatever. It's all good. Move
on. But yeah, so I think, you know, now people are expecting these they don't want no half-ass statements. They want accountability. Yeah, which is what the whole thing of cancel culture stemmed from, was holding people accountable.
Yeah, but my question now is that so unfortunately because of cancel culture, the internet is so filtered that it's almost too filtered. Like people can't just say whatever they want. There's no longer room for there's no longer any room for just civil discourse. Of course.
Oh, you mean there's no such thing as freedom of speech online?
It's not only as freedom of speech. It's just you can disagree and still not hate each other if that makes sense, right? Like there are people who have opinions that are like super just out there and wrong. But in the end, they're still people. And I feel like if you still see them as a person, you can maybe speak to them and speak to them in a way that's not condescending. Because I feel like the reason that a lot of the divide started happening, like I feel like cancel culture actually played a big part in that big divide that happened in the country when it came to like the Trumpers versus everyone else, essentially. I feel like cancel culture had a big part of that because there are people who are anti-cancel culture, essentially. And a lot of the people who happen to be anti-cancel culture happen to also fall in line with the Trump supporters. But I feel like if we weren't so quick to judge and so quick to condemn people and not choose to educate them and just kind of cast them away, then we wouldn't have had such a big divide, and maybe the whole Trump era wouldn't even have happened.
I mean, Trump deserves to be canceled, though, but...
Yeah, but I feel like it's because the internet tried to cancel him so hard that people kind of went against that because they felt like...
But he's not going to become a better person. Like, he is who he is.
No, I'm talking about the people who were following him, essentially, not Trump himself.
I mean, even his followers
I don't think
are
he's
like
open
highly
to any
uneducated.
civil discourse. Yeah.
So,
but the people who follow him were still on... the ones who are at least on the fence were reachable. But because of the quick reactions of the people who think they're being like... social justice warriors, I guess.
Yeah.
We haven't said that word in a long time, but essentially that's what they were being. Because of their quick reactions and condemning of these people, they just swung the opposite way. But I felt like if there was some type of conversation there, at least you might have been able to kind of convince them or make them see where you're coming from, and maybe make them change their opinion, or at least fall into more of a middle ground instead of being such an extreme.
But I think a lot of people online, like, I've never... Have you ever been that type of person that gets into those, like, online arguments on Twitter or
no,
on
I've never...
Instagram
You know me,
comments?
I've never been...
I know, but, like...
I hate conversations.
Sometimes...
No.
It depends on how bored I am.
Do you have Twitter?
No, I don't have Twitter, but
okay.
on Instagram comments, people, like, they go in.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never looked into Instagram comments like that.
Oh, sometimes I do. Or even TikTok.
Yeah.
If there's something controversial and I'm like, oh, this looks like a good comment.
You've commented on TikTok before?
No.
Yeah, I've only commented once, and that was for Gizma when she first started a TikTok.
Yeah, I commented on his too.
You too, right?
Like, oh, I love this.
Exactly. I was like, yeah, finally. Literally, I said finally. You remember that? Yeah.
But there are people who live for this. They love doing that. And that's your prerogative. If you want to be a commenter, do your thing. But people have like full on debates. And you know how you were saying like, oh, it's okay to have constructive, like it's okay to disagree.
Yeah.
But people online, they'll come for you over like a small little disagreement. Like you could just be like, I don't like chicken nuggets.
Yeah. And
they'll tell you the friggin' health facts of why consuming chicken is good for you and how you're stupid because you don't like chicken.
See, like that's the also, yeah. The thing is, people forget that at the end of the day, these are all opinions. Or when we were talking about specifically, a lot of these are opinions. So if you disagree, it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's just that that's their opinion and you have a different one.
Yeah.
Like maybe there are certain things that aren't up to opinions, and then you can have that that conversation. But in the end, if it's like, I like this, and then someone else goes, oh, ew, why would you like that? That's trash. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's an opinion, man.
You know what it is? You know what it is? And I realized this after I got Clubhouse. When you give everybody the opportunity to have a public voice and they can speak up on something. Yeah. I think when someone disagrees with your point, it almost becomes like an ego thing. Because you're like, why are you disagreeing with me? Like, I'm not wrong. You must be wrong. Yeah. So even though it's an opinion and everyone is entitled to one, you are more likely to have an enjoyable conversation with someone who agrees with you that says, yeah, I like what you like, instead of saying, nah, I don't like what you like. And then it goes from not liking the same thing to like attacking each other's. You know what I mean? Like Clubhouse was like that. Yeah. If you didn't agree with someone, you would go and they would go into like full-fledged like debates. And Clubhouse is different because you're actually speaking, like people hear your voice, right? Yeah. And then there's the other side of it where if you are a man speaking and a woman agrees with you, then the woman is automatically labeled as a quote-unquote pick-me. What? And then if a man agrees with a woman, he is considered a simp.
Come on now.
It's so weird. So I'm like, what if I just agree with the point?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't mean I'm a pick me. You know what a pick me is, right?
Yeah. Like pick me girl. I've heard those lines before. Yeah.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know what a pick me is, it's like
You're like hyper agreeable, so you can
be more desired or like liked or whatever. And a simp is
essentially the other way around. This is a guy who will do anything to capture the attention of the girl, or basically,
yeah. So weird.
Like shower them with gifts. That's like the typical thing, right?
I mean, I wouldn't mind a simp.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you could probably find him somewhere online. You got Muzmatch, man. You got Jabana. Shout out to the Jabana app. I saw
if
that.
If you guys get us to 1,000 followers on Instagram, I'm gonna make an Amir a dating app profile, and you guys can decide whether it's Muzmatch, Jabana, Minder.
Oh, I forgot about Minder.
What are the other ones?
Those are the only ones I know right now.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Well.
No, okay, so there was another. So now with the internet, do you think that? So we're Muslim, and there's opinions like in religion in general that, of course, don't fall in line with like the mainstream social. What do they call it? Like mainstream
social norms.
The social norms.
Norms are yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So do you think at any point the Instagram will start coming after the internet will start coming after like Muslims or just religious people in general, or do you think like people? I guess you would have to actively do something.
I mean, if you are someone who is quote unquote religious, or you follow your religion closely, you would know that the rules of the religion are not up for argument.
Yeah, I think it's because like especially with the way the internet is, not the internet, with the society is going right now, where it's being a lot more, I guess really no because the society is being more accepting. So I feel like as long as you're not trying to impose your own beliefs on someone else, then they really kind of leave you alone. And I feel like that's why a lot of like Muslims and religious people have been able to kind of enter the social media realm with no real like pushback, even though they're very different from the norm, because we don't actively speak against everybody else who's part of that community.
I'm going to have to beg to differ on that, because
unlike Christians, like I feel like Christians are a lot more like
aggressive,
not aggressive, like in your face with like
they're the ones that comment on like celebrities posts saying,
exactly,
they'll be like, Jesus loves you.
Yeah,
and
you've
like,
seen that a lot recently,
like,
right?
What are y'all doing? Like,
yeah, I don't know. I've been seeing that a lot more recently. I don't know. Maybe they have like some like social media push, or it's like, I don't know what they're doing right now.
I don't know, but I mean, I've noticed on TikTok more that a lot of people just express their curiosity on Islam because TikTok, you know, their videos and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So for someone who's not Muslim, they might see a Muslim person on their For You page, and they're like, oh, you know, that's interesting, and they start doing their own
there have
research.
actually been a lot of converts off of TikTok.
Yeah,
I've seen that.
And it's really cool to like see. But I think that when it comes to like Instagram, I wouldn't say that the Muslim influencers don't get hate. I'm sure they do. I'm pretty sure that I think they do, and they're also not like we also spoke on this topic before, but Muslim influencers they don't get the same opportunities as non-Muslim influencers.
I guess so. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So maybe they haven't been fully accepted by the.
Yeah, because they're like the art of becoming an influencer is someone who is quote unquote relatable, or someone who is like, you know, you're a common, like you're someone who is like how do I put this?
I guess because like in social media, they're looking for the person who can
you have to have a marketable
exactly
image.
Like you fall into the most categories with like the people who are on there, if that makes sense. Like you tick off a lot more boxes
if you're racially ambiguous.
Exactly Yeah, that's why I guess a lot more, like I mentioned last time in another podcast, where a lot more white people or white influencers have, first off, they have a lot more followers, and then they also get a lot more opportunities because they still, a lot of the population is white, and,
but because of the shift in our society now, they're always going to look for that token minority.
Yeah.
So if you're...
Have you noticed that, like, because maybe this does stem from cancel culture as well, but like, because remember how they had like the Oscar So White a few years ago, where they were saying like let's boycott the Oscars because it's all white people, and the Oscars, like I think the next year or maybe even that same year, went the complete opposite way, where they were like showcasing black people. They had like a black host. They're really pushing like black people. They gave like the #1 movie to a black director. I think it was for Moonlight or something like that. But I feel like now, because the culture has been calling out all of this like racism towards black people and minorities, Hollywood and just the social media in general has been making a huge shift in the other way. The pendulum is almost in the complete opposite side, to where it's almost like, okay, you can't go a little too far here, man. It's like, we want representation, but don't
they're trying to overcompensate.
Yeah, don't overcompensate where it just doesn't feel natural anymore, if that makes sense. And maybe that's a controversial opinion. I don't know, because like it's good that, you know, get your money if you're a minority, right? But I feel like you can almost feel it. You can see it on the screen, like when they're kind of overcompensating for something, and it's funny. Like,
that's interesting that you say that, because as a black man yourself, like when something's in your people's favor, that you're calling it out still and saying that it comes off as little maybe like disingenuous. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, like okay, here's an example. So recently they were like, for Superman, they were gonna, Henry Cavill was the original Superman, the actor for him, and he's like, they're like, okay, we're done with Henry Cavill, even though he wanted to do it more. I think there's like some contract issue, and they're looking for a new Superman. And then rumors came out that Michael B. Jordan was going to be the new Superman. And interesting. And there were a lot of like, of course, a lot of white people were saying, or just people in general were saying like, what? Like, Superman's not black, he's white or whatever, right? Yeah. And they've been doing that a lot, right? Where they changed the characters from...
You've never seen Black Cinderella?
Moesha? Yeah, exactly.
Not Moesha, wow.
Not
Brandy?
Moesha. You're right.
No, that's what I know her from.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of this show.
Oh yeah, she was Black Cinderella, exactly. Yeah. But like, okay, so the way that the white people reacted, they reacted for the wrong reason. They reacted because he was black, and they were like trying to, and they were saying like, Superman is white, he should stay white, that kind of thing. Like, ooh. My reaction to that is like, why not bring in, there's DC, which is a universe that like Superman and Batman are all part of. Why not introduce or bring in a character that's already black from that universe, and showcase him instead, because they already have a history of in the universe of being black, and they kind of, and there's already like a story that kind of centers around the fact that they are black. When you're changing the character of Superman from black to white, it's literally, there's nothing else. He's already an alien, right? He's technically not even white. He looks white, but he's an alien, so he's not Caucasian or whatever. So he's not from the Caucasus Mountains. But
he's not a human?
Huh? No, he's an alien. You see a human who shoots lasers out of his eyes? You don't really Superman origin story?
No.
He's from Krypton, and his parents sent to be because Krypton was about to explode.
What's Krypton?
Krypton's the planet he's from.
He's not a human?
No.
Why does he look like one?
Well, that's the thing. Like, he looks human because technically they are humanoid looking from his planet, but he has extra strength. He can shoot lasers out of his eyes. He can breathe in space and in water and everything.
Well, I just thought like he could do those things when he had the cape on, because wasn't he Kent Clark during the day?
You mean Clark Kent?
Whatever. Same thing.
How little do you know about the Superman?
I don't even know.
I thought it was a classic character. I thought everybody knew about Superman.
And I don't know anything. Because you know why? Like Spider-Man, he's a human. He just got bitten by a spider and all of a sudden can shoot webs.
Sorry. No, okay, go ahead. No, but like...
but you see how like when he's a human, he's a human.
Yeah.
And then when he puts on that little spandex thing.
No, he technically still... well, depending on which comic read, because sometimes... In some Spider-Man comics, I'm going real nerdy here. In some Spider-Man comics, the webs are not part of him, but in the movie Spider-Man, they made it a part of him, where like the webs shoot out of his hand. Yeah. But classically, he makes a contraption that shoots out webs because he's supposed to also be a super smart scientist. So he's able to develop the webbing to be able to swing around, and his actual power was like having spidey sense, being able to climb, super strength, that kind of stuff.
And he got that because he got bitten by a spider.
Exactly. Yeah.
See, that's what I thought. Like, I assumed when Superman put the cape and the spandex suit, he had these abilities.
Nah, then anyone could just put it on. That's like Iron Man. Anyone can be anyone can be Iron Man if they just put on the suit, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Iron Man doesn't have any powers. He's just super rich. So he's able to build himself the suits to be able to fly around and shoot lasers and all that stuff.
Are Spider-Man, Superman, and Iron Man all
they're all
the same?
No.
Oh.
Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all of them are part of DC. And Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor, and the Marvel Universe, they're all part of Marvel.
Okay, I think I need to
Yeah, you need to brush up. I need to show you the movies, man.
Yeah.
We're going to watch every single one of those movies.
Like for both?
No. Forget about the DC ones. Those ones are trash. That's a controversial opinion.
I watched Joker.
Well. You watched no, that one's like, it's not even technically. That's the thing about DC right now. Okay, we're fully into this nerd thing right now. But the thing about DC right now is they're really messing out because they tried to do the thing that Marvel was doing, where like, how Marvel, all the movies are connected in a way, and they all kind of merge into each other. But DC, they tried to do that, but like they did it wrong, where they did the like ensemble movie first and before giving them individual movies. So like all of them were in the same movie, and then they went on did their individual things, except for Superman, which had its own movie first. And then actors were quitting, and like Batman didn't want to do it anymore, and they're like switching around. And, like the Flash came in, and his movie's not supposed to come out till like 2025 or something. So it's just all messed up with DC right now. So the Joker, just think about it like it's separate movie.
Oh.
Yeah. But let's get back on track here, because there's a point you made there with Spider-Man. So this almost kind of relates to the same thing. So Spider-Man, he's typically, your white teenage boy from high school in Queens. But there's a second Spider-Man now who's actually a black Spider-Man called Miles Morales. And his story centers around it's not centered around it, but his history, he is black. His mom is Puerto Rican. His dad is black. He grew up in like the Bronx or something like that, and he gained powers, I think, in a similar way that Spider-Man did. But essentially, I feel that's like the right way to do it, where you bring in a character.
Wait, is he like Spider-Man 2.0? Or
essentially Spider-Man 2.0.
That's his name?
No. His name is I think he's still Spider-Man, but like because I think in the comics, like Spider-Man dies, and then he kind of takes up the mantle afterwards. At one point they are like sort of together, but I don't want to get too much into that. But that's kind of an example of how to do it right, where you bring in a character who's already black, and he has like the culture behind him. They showcase like his blackness properly, and unlike what DC was trying to do, where they take a character who's classically known as white and just literally change him black, but not change anything else. Of course, the movie hasn't come out, so I don't know if they've changed anything else. But if that's all they do, then it doesn't seem genuine. It's very disingenuous, at least in my opinion. And a lot of movies are doing that, not only in the nerdverse, if that makes sense, but like in general in other movies as well.
I don't know.
Or in entertainment.
Like, unless Superman's power was literally being white, I don't think it matters.
That's the thing. It doesn't matter, and that's why the way those people reacted was wrong, where they were saying, "Oh, he's white, he shouldn't be black," whatever. It's like, that's not the right argument you should be making here. At least the argument that black people should be making is that, like, so why don't you showcase a real black character who has like who goes through the things that black people go through, and showcase that instead of just changing a character from
like Black Panther.
Yeah, like Black Panther, exactly. Black Panther, like they showcase like African culture in his movie, right? And like, could you see a white guy playing Black Panther? Like, how would you feel if they took Black Panther and just made him white, but didn't change anything else, just made him white?
I mean, there are white Africans technically, but yeah, like it
just
would
wouldn't
make
feel
more
right.
sense.
It would feel disingenuous, or wouldn't feel, at least to me.
It would just make more sense if he was black, because he's,
yeah, because
Black
exactly. So that's what I just feel like was kind of
okay. But like,
it was a wrong shift.
The new Spider-Man ones with that kid, isn't Zendaya? Doesn't she play Mary Jane? She's black. She's half.
What do you mean?
Or is it because Mary Jane is a supporting character that it doesn't matter?
Yeah, she's a supporting character, and also like, at least in the comics, I didn't think like it wasn't a part of her character, right?
Like being white.
Yeah, exactly. Like it didn't really play a part in it, and you could technically make that argument, like why did they change her to be black, and that could also be like an argument people make, but like I don't think it makes as big of a difference. Like essentially, what I'm trying to say is that because she's a supporting character, it doesn't really play a big part in the overall story that they're trying to tell. But like my thing here is that because the pendulum went the other way, they should be showcasing more like black stories instead of just changing people from white to black and keeping everything the same and not really not addressing the things that come with being black, if that makes sense. Okay, guys, we had some technical difficulties there. We kind of lost power.
So weird.
Midway through conversation there, so I don't even know what I said last, or at least where I was. I kind of like lost my train of thought there.
We're just gonna have like an incomplete thought.
Yeah, just have an incomplete thought. But how do we wrap this up? Let's try and wrap it up then. This conversation we've been having.
Do you still feel like cancel culture means as much as it once did?
No. Oh yeah, that's a good way. So I think that the way the internet is moving right now, so everything is a pendulum to me, right? So it swung huge way to the left, where almost anything you say can be taken the wrong way, and you might be canceled for it. And I feel like now it's moving the other way. So eventually now it's kind of like shifting. It's near the middle where you see that cancel culture is not really having as much of an influence, or canceling something doesn't have as much of an influence. It may even actually benefit the person, to where it's going to eventually, after it passes the middle, it's going to go the other way, where people just go crazy with whatever they say. And like whatever you say goes, or maybe it just may stay in the middle. And now it's because maybe the reason that everything was so kind of like everything was so sensitive at first is because the internet was new, so people didn't know how to react properly. But now people are, because
they weren't ever exposed to everything all at once.
Exactly. So yeah. So you know what? Maybe it'll stay more in the middle. Like anything, you'll kind of like the pendulum's kind of swinging towards the middle and kind of slowing down and kind of like shifting towards it's just staying in the middle.
Yeah.
Because people now they've lived with the internet long enough to where they kind of know how to react properly now, and are being a lot more and people are being a lot more reasonable now. You know, they're taking that 5 seconds to wait and see, and maybe educate first and then react depending on how that person reacts to them being called out, or them being after they've been educated on the situation. And then you can go in on them, you know.
I mean, I feel like people just love a good redemption story.
Yeah.
Look at Justin Bieber, Demi Lovato. I'm naming all the...
Yeah, maybe not Demi Lovato.
No, but I mean, okay, yeah, Demi, she keeps digging herself in a...
Yeah.
Sorry, they keep digging themselves in a hole, you know?
They do.
So, but Justin was... The thing is that people loved him so much, and when he was like a teenager still, even though he was like a shitty person. And as he was doing all these things and they were being exposed online, like the drugs and the alcohol and just his bad attitude. In a bucket. Yeah, like just the dumb stuff he was doing. And then he like went MIA for a few years, and then he got married, and then he became more religious in his in what he believed in and stuff. And then he came back and seems like a decent human being. and you know, it looks like he's popular again. I don't know.
Yeah. And actually, one thing I should also just close off on there as well is like there should be like an age limit to who you can cancel, because like we forget that a lot of the people who are now very popular in social media or just in media in entertainment in general, they're getting younger. Yeah, like they're starting out at like 15, 16 now, right? And
that's how they were before.
Yeah, but like I feel like it's a lot more now, you know, because like it's just so flooded. The market is so flooded.
Nick Jonas was 15.
But like if I wasn't like active on social media back then, but if I was active on social media back then, I would be canceled for half of the things I said or thought.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I still had Twitter and I pulled up my tweets from 2009.
Exactly. There's a reason I never shared my opinions online, because now with the podcast and everything, but
Yeah, but even now, how many times have we like, you know, I'll pull away from the mic and be like, can we say this?
Exactly. See, so we're still being like, we're still filtering ourselves, but because I think that's just more because we know people who close to us who might react to it. And it's like, it's more scary if someone you know close to you that might react to it than like someone on the other side of the planet, right?
But I also feel like we're self-aware to know what's right and wrong to say.
Exactly. Yeah, we kind of matured out of that at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting, like cancel culture in general. I feel like it's making its way out now, and of course it will always be there in a way, but I feel like the way that it manifests itself will be a lot more reasonable than it was originally.
Okay, I have one more question for you before you go. It might actually turn into a whole conversation, but do you feel like cancel culture is only for celebrities, or does it happen for day-to-day life too, like your people, everyday people?
Well, I think that's less cancel culture, or like canceling, like you just at that point you just stop being friends with that person. Like you've canceled people in your life.
That's true.
Yeah. So exactly. So
if
you cancel people in life, technically you were part of cancel culture, but you wouldn't say that it was part of cancel culture because you're just literally not being friends. You didn't, because the word cancel culture didn't even exist until like social media, right? So before it was just like no longer supporting that person, no longer interacting with that person, right? But they just put a word on it.
No, but like even like, you know, haven't you ever heard those stories of like those pastors who like assault people?
Oh yeah,
they get canceled.
Yeah,
I mean, I hope they do.
Yeah, but like
that was just an example, by the way.
That's just like kicking someone out. That's like technically
that's canceled.
It is canceling
like,
someone. Basically.
Yeah, like he got canceled.
Yeah. So
that's kind of funny. He participated in cancel culture.
Yeah, everyone's participating. That's the thing. It's just, it sounds weird that we're calling it cancel culture, but it's something all humans do, right? You just kind of cut someone off.
Yeah.
True. But when you make it more individualized, like, I mean, closer to home, and you still call it cancel culture, it just feels weird. It sounds weird.
But it is what
it is cancel culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've all been kind of doing it, but this is just on a grander scale, essentially. Yeah. Okay, guys. So hopefully you could get something out of it. I want to know your opinions, essentially, because I think we gave a lot of our opinions here, but
we did.
You know, we're only speaking to each other, so we want to hear from you guys as well. So of course, hit us up in the DMs at Cousin Connection Podcast. You can hit us individually as well. Should they hit us? You know, hit us in DM so we can both see it at the same time.
Yeah.
On Cousin Connection Podcast on Instagram.
I mean, if you want to hit us up individually too, our DMs are always open.
Yeah.
They've been a little dry lately. We miss y'all. So
exactly.
Share your opinions. Tell us what you think. If you want us to go on live, we eventually want to. Side note, okay, this is just me just throwing it out there. We eventually want to have like other guests.
Yeah.
We still have to do part 3 of the relationship talk series.
We never said how many parts we're gonna do. Okay.
Yeah, but like part 3, you know, the next part.
Yeah.
Which was the one where we would eventually focus on the single people, because we've done married couples already. But we have lots coming in store. We are still working on the video.
I was supposed to do it tonight, but you know,
we will get to it. You know what? Maybe on our like 20th episode, because this is episode 18 now. So maybe we'll just pop up. To that. We gonna pop up. We gotta hype everyone up first. You know.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
We'll work on it. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm ready.
Do you have any other closing? Oh, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Cousin Connection Pod. Like us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts.
Any podcasting app that you use, basically.
Also, look us up on YouTube, Cousin Connection Podcast. Subscribe to our channel.
You'll be notified the moment we put out like an actual video of us on camera.
Press the little bell thing. That way you'll get notifications when we actually
you're doing
post.
That.
And if you ever want to like actually listen to the episodes on YouTube, the audios are there if you guys want to listen to them there. But we will eventually transition to video as well.
Yeah. So and you can follow me at Amir Was Taken on Instagram. You can follow Sara at @alisara__. And hopefully you guys like that. And
Bye.